I'll be implementing new functionality to our web app, mainly that we can sort by name and we can sort by city. There will also be a little bit of refactoring in this video, where I'll be moving things towards a more object-oriented way of coding in Ruby. And as always, you'll see at the end of the video, we'll push some commits up and we'll push them to production. If you just want to see the code changes, they're linked in the description below, specifically the commits that have been merged into the main branch. And as always, this video is minimally edited to show what software development really is. It's not linear. You will see me Google problems, troubleshooting, and just find a lot of best practices and change my code a lot. It's not a linear path. You will not just be able to follow exactly what I do and that's coding, right? There's a lot of different factors to consider. There's pros and cons with every decision. And you'll see that whole process as I talk out loud as I'm implementing this feature. So enjoy. Let's implement sort by name. Feature is user can click the name field and it will sort it from alphabetically first to last. And then if user clicks it again, it will sort it in reverse order. And the other requirement is, you can sort by name and then also search, and that would still further narrow down the results. Okay, so let's do that. Just for a quick recap, this places list page gets its data from this places controller side on the Rails. And what we're going to do is let's start with adding a param that's called sort column. So we're going to do something like let's see, sort param equals params, and we can do like sort column, and then we're going to do sort order, and I'll be sort order. Okay, so the idea is the front end, when we click name, it will send up these two extra parameters. Okay, so let's actually start from the React side of things, and let's figure out how to kind of make that behavior work. So this list view is place list JSX, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a couple of states. So we have sort column, and by default it's going to be the name field, and then we have sort order, and by default it's going to be ascending. Okay, cool. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to figure out how these get changed. So let's look at the UI a little bit. So I actually want this to be hoverable. And so let's take a look at the table header class. Let's see, we have all that, and let's just make the name field headerable. So I'm gonna do this here, where I'm gonna say, okay, I wanna include this, but also let's include whatever the CSS style is for like being able to hover over something, and have the cursor you see here become like a thing that indicates that you can click it. So let me give you an example. Like if you hover over a new log, you can see that my cursor changes. So I want to do the same thing for this name field. So let's Google how to do that with Tailwind. So Tailwind CSS, cursor hover. I'm not a robot. All right, so we can do cursor pointer. Let's try that. So if you add this, okay, let's refresh. Okay, cool. So if you hover over this, it will actually be okay. All right, so so that's one thing. The other thing I want to do is I want to add like a up and down arrow key. That will allow us to indicate to the user what the sort direction is. And so let's do something like let's just do this in ASCII because down arrow. Like let's just keep it super simple. So I want something like that if it's, you know, sorted from let's see. Yeah, sort it from alphabetically first to alphabetically last. So we're gonna add like an if statement here. We're gonna keep the code super not dry, but easy to understand, okay? So we have a name field. So let's just call that, yeah, let's have a name field there. And then we're gonna optionally show this, or we're gonna optionally show, let's see, up arrow. And it's gonna be something like that. So we're gonna optionally show one of these two. Let me just see if this renders on the screen. Okay, that looks good. So we could do something like that. And we're gonna basically do like a if statement here. So we can do something like, I'm just gonna write it out like super verbose. So like if sort order, right? So we have access to this new state here. We have sort order and sort column. So if sort column equals name and sort order equals ascending, right? Then we will say that the column is name. Let's see. Okay. And we're just gonna do that. Otherwise, okay, so the second one is sort column equals name and sort order equals descending. Then we will say it's name with up arrow, okay? Name with up arrow, okay. Otherwise, so if sort column is not name, then we're gonna say, okay, I want you to render name, just the name field, okay? So that's kind of the three, this should cover all the different conditions that can happen here. So let's do a refresh. So right now, sort order is down, that's by default. That's great. Cool, so now we're gonna have to add some behavior now. We're gonna say if this is clicked, then we will have to set the sort column to name and sort order to the opposite, right? And so what we can do is we can say, so th, we can say, we can add an on-click listener here. So on-click equals, and we can say toggle or, okay, function naming. All right, let's think about what we're gonna call this function. This function, the input, so I'm just gonna say function, some function for now. The input is a sort column that you've clicked, and the output is you set the sort order to the opposite, right? And then there's some branching conditions here, right? But basically you would set sort order to like, you know, some new sort order, and you would also set sort column to some new sort column. It could be the same one, but it's just like, okay, we're gonna get rid of the new, so it's less confusing for you all. But yeah, like basically it's gonna take in the thing that you clicked and it's gonna do something with these two state variables. So let's just say it's like, you know, handle sort click, handle header click or something like that, okay? And okay, so let's go through the different edge cases here. So if I was already sorted by name and, you know, I clicked sort, I click name again, then I toggle the sort order from, right? Toggling means like if it's ascending, you switch it to descending. And if it's descending, you switch it to ascending. So let's just handle that case first. So if sort column, okay, and then here is where like click sort column, we have some variable clashing, so I'm just gonna like name that click sort column. And if that equals the current sort column, then you're just gonna toggle the sort order and you're done. So how do you toggle it? Well, you can do like set sort order, and you can say sort order. If it's ascending, then you return descending, otherwise you return ascending. And this is a tertiary operator, so if you're interested in learning more, it's tertiary operator JavaScript. And you can look up an example here where you have your Boolean, and if that Boolean is true, then you return the first thing. If that Boolean is false, then you return the second thing. Okay, so that should be the sort order. Okay. All right, let's think about what the other edge cases are. Okay, what if the sort or column is different? Well, all you need to do is do else. Okay, set sort order, sort column by the one that you clicked. Okay, and then you set sort order. And let's just say this is like ascending by default. Cool, and that should cover all the edge cases. Now let's just try it out, and you can say on click, and let's just do name and city for now, because I don't want to write out all this logic here. So I'm just gonna kind of on click, and this is handle header click. Okay. And this is gonna pass in. Okay, how do I do this? You do click sort column. Click sort column. All right, I think it's important that it you pass in name, this name field, because the backend will eventually need this. Okay, and let's just do the same for city, real quick. So we've got these three, and then we have the three conditions here. So we have if it's city, then you do city. Same thing here. We could try this up later, but I just want to get something working right now. So we've got that. And yeah, let's check it out. So right now, obviously it wouldn't work. Okay, so on click, you got class name equals. Okay, so this should actually go inside the open brackets here. And yeah, we should have a similar one for city. Okay. All right, so when you load the page, and let's just make sure our JavaScript has loaded. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so first it's, name, and then you click city, right? Now the visual effects of it is working, right? You click name, you click it again, it's gonna toggle. You click a different column, it's gonna switch to that column, and you can click that same one, it's gonna toggle the ascending or descending order of the sort. Okay, great. So now that we have kind of the visuals working, let's figure out how to send the right requests to the server. So right now, if you just look at inspect network, like nothing really happens if you just click this, like nothing, there's no extra request that's firing. And what we want to do is we want to fire an extra request. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, let's remove this console log here. What we're gonna do is you see this useEffect, and you see this list of things. Well, this list here is the dependencies in which this effect is gonna take place, right? So like here are the list of states that will change, and every time we change something in this list, this effect gets executed. So I think we just need to add sort column and sort order, so that anytime we change the column that we're sorting by, or we change the order in which we're sorting by, it's going to trigger a useEffect. So and then we're just going to add on to the parameter setting up the server. So we do search term equals that. We also do sort column equals sort column. And we also do and sort order equals sort order. Okay, so let's see. We pull up the network tab and refresh the screen. Let's see what gets sent up. So if I click this, it's gonna send up sort column equals name, sort order. Okay, let me add this underscore in. There we go. So sort column equals name, sort order equals descending. And then we click city, it's gonna change to sort column equals city. So looks like the front end facing part is good to go. We just need to get the controller to return the right data based on what we're sending up here. So quick debugging session. So let's just actually put the sort column and sort order, and let's just see if what we're being sent up is actually available as a local variable here. So refresh and let's look at the log. So it's gonna do a new terminal or clear it out. So if I click name, right, it's gonna send up param, search term equals empty, sort column equals name, sort order equals descending, and this is name and descending, right? So looks like we have access to these variables. Now we can just write whatever we need on the Rails side to actually fetch the right data. So let's just do a very simple implementation. I'm not trying to make this super complicated. So places, let's see, matching places. So I'm just gonna pull this this part to its own line. Okay. Again, I'm not really changing the implementation here just yet. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do this matching places. So this is a list of places, right? It could be place.all, it could be that place.where, blah, 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 blah. And what we could do is we can add an extra order statement. So in Ruby or active record, let's just do an example of Rails sort active record. Cool. Sort array returned by active record by date. Okay, that looks like we can do sort by. We can do this model.order. We could do .order, and then if we do .order, and then we can add in like ascending or descending, that should just work. So what we could do is we could do sort column, order by, let's see, sort column and order, sort order. Let's see what this does. And we're going to pass in two variables. We're going to do sort column is sort column and sort order is sort order. Okay, so what this is doing is this is saying I'm going to order by these two variables, which are going to be sanitized by Rails. So we don't, if a user tries to send up like, you know, drop table, right? They won't actually be able to do that. So so that's what we're ordering by, and we're passing in these two params. I'm just going to do shorthand Ruby, which if the variable name is the same as the param name, you could just do param name.colon, okay, or param colon. So that should be that part of it. And then this is like ordered places, okay, and then we can do something like ordered places.map, and you return all this JSON stuff, and then it's like places to return. Okay, and then you render JSON. Okay, let's just give it a shot. Actually, before we give it a shot, let's give it a shot. So loading. All right, of course, there's an error. So let's see what happened. Well, we have a undefined variable, line 8. So let's take a look at what line 8 is. So it says undefined local variable or method ordered places. What did I do? Ordered places. Okay, so that's not. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do matching places.order by that, and then set ordered places as a variable. Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, so what else has gone wrong? Okay, unknown attribute reference, dangerous query method whose arguments are used in raw SQL, called with non-attribute arguments. This method should not be called with user-provided values, such as request parameters or model attributes. Known state values can be passed by wrapping them in arel.sql. All right, so known safe values. Okay, this is not a known safe value. All right, so let's see, how do we do this? Oh, okay, I actually don't think we can like directly pass it in anyway. So let's do something like sort column. Let's just do some Googling on what the best practices are for this. So Arel SQL best practices Rails. Using that to compose SQL queries. Okay, Thoughtbot's reputable for this. So let's just read through this. So Rails gives us a great DSL for constructing most queries. The method we most often use is this where method. Okay. It also handles nils. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay. With Rails 4, you can query by where not. Okay, Arel. Okay, Arel is a library introduced for constructing queries. Every time you pass a hash, it goes through Arel eventually. And looks like Rails gives us access to this library that we can hook into when we need to build a more complex query. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. If we want to reuse, we can readability, reliability, repeatability. Okay, let's just do this refactoring, or let's just see if it's possible to do this refactoring. I looked through the Thoughtbot article, and looks like it has us create like a totally new object that's super general in terms of how you pass in arguments to SQL. I also Googled just is there a helper method that helps us sanitize the input, and it looks like there is, but it has to be part of active record, and I don't want to stick a bunch of SQL statements in the places model. I just want to keep this model super simple and not rely on inheritance. So I didn't really like this approach. And yeah, so I think what I'm actually going to do is just implement this myself. And we'll create something called like a queries object, or let's think about this a little bit. Let's create a components folder. Let's create a components folder. And this is where we're going to put our components. And within the components, we're going to have, let's see, I'm going to have a queries folder actually. And we're just going to try to use object-oriented programming as much as possible. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to create an object that handles params for places and does the right thing. So what we can do is we can say, let's see, it could be like a places order. Okay, and we can give it some namespace. So components, or okay, queries, and we can do class places order. Okay, order. And what this is going to do is we're going to create, we're going to use the command pattern. For those of you that don't know what the command pattern is, Ruby command pattern. It allows us to basically use, let's just take a look at this post, see if there's an example of this online. It's kind of like this, where we have a simple initializer, and don't worry about this inheritance, but it's more like there's an initializer and there's like a method, like a single method, like call or execute, and we can start injecting stuff into the initializer here, and it makes it very clear what the dependencies are. So we could do something like that. So we can say define execute, and we could do something like we're going to pass in a list of places, and we're going to filter those places. So we're going to pass in a list of places and the order params, and we can say even something like, let's not even worry about that yet. We're going to do something like Let's see. We can even define a struct, so it's order spec or something like that, or order config struct.new, and we're going to give it 2 fields. We're going to give it a sort order, and we're going to give it a sort column. Let's actually reverse that. And we're going to do keywords init true, which allows us to initialize this object. Order config. Okay, so we're going to take in a list of places and we're going to sort them by this configuration. And what we could do is we could say, like, you know, we can actually add some error statements. So it's like, you know, column error or something like that. And we could say, like, if order config dot sort column. And here is where we can actually add some dependencies. So we can do define initialize, and we could say, like, accepted, no, like allow list. Let's see, column, sort column, allow list. And we could say the list is, we're going to give it, right now we allow, let's see, the name field, and we allow the city field. We won't implement anything else right now, sort column. So we're gonna just set that as a variable that we expose via a private attribute reader. So I'll go into this a little bit more, but first we're gonna just expose this variable to anything that we call, like anytime we can basically have access to this variable without having to do the @ sign. Is basically what this private method does. And so what we could do is we could say, okay, if the order config is not in, so we could do sort column, allow list, yeah, okay, include, if it does not include, I think it's, let me just look this up. So Ruby include array, include question mark. Okay, so it's include. Okay, if it does not include that, then you do column error. Okay, and column error could be like, you know, like fail, standard error, and you could say like and let's just pass in places. Let's do order config. Let's just pass that in. And we could say, like, order config does not contain, order config does not, is not allowed, or something like that. Okay, and cool. So that's like a guard statement. And what we could do next is we can say, all right, we have places. Let's actually do the actual filtering. So, you know, if so now that we know it's in the allow list, which is name or city, we can actually do something like yeah, we can actually be confident that we could filter by it. So order config, and then we can actually add another one where it's like, you know, sort order allow list, and it could be so let's just, I'm going to break this into slightly more readable syntax. Sort order allow list, and then it could be ascending or descending. Nothing else is supported here. And we could say, all right, we got attribute reader, we got this, and now we can also do the same guard statement. And this could be, let's just say it's config error, right? Let's just say it's config error, very generic. We just need to print out what's there. And then here, we're gonna change it to sort order allow list. So what this first one is saying is like, you know, if you didn't send up name or city, then throw an error. And then what this is saying is if you didn't send up ascending or descending, then throw an error. And this would be sort order. Okay, cool. Great, so these are two guard statements, and then finally we have our logic, which is, you know, places dot order by, and now we can be confident that we can actually sort column order config dot sort order. Okay, so this should be more sanitized because we ran it through these two guard statements. So let's actually try to run this, and then we'll add some tests next. Again, it shouldn't be hard to write tests because this is like an object. So let's actually, let's go back to the controller and let's refactor this a little bit to use that object that we created. So instead of doing all the sanitization here, we have all the matching places, and then we can do .new, execute. Let's actually use call rather than execute. It's a little bit more semantic Ruby. And we're gonna say matching places, and we're gonna pass in an order config. So places order config, and we're gonna say that, okay, order config equals, and we can actually just construct this, let's construct this instantiation .new, and we're gonna say sort column, so is sort column, sort order is sort order. Again, remember, this is the same as this, but I'm just doing a super short Rails Ruby way of doing it. And then now we can pass in order config. Okay, cool. And maybe let's actually get rid of the params here, or the local variables, and just directly access the params, so we can have a little bit less code. Okay. So yeah, you call it, and that's called place it, like ordered places. Okay, and now we can return that. So let's give this a shot. Yeah, so let's go to this list, let's refresh. Okay, looks like there's another error. Uninitialized constant API. Okay, so places order. Is it called places order? Okay, it's actually namespace by queries, so we're gonna do that. Okay, and looks like that also errored. And let's see. Okay, cool. So you gotta actually re-index all of this, or prefix all of this with queries. And okay, cool. Queries, did you mean queue? Okay, so let's take a look at how this, so you have a module queries, queries, spelled correctly. That's within the API controller. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I think we have an issue with this directory not showing up on as a variable here. So let's actually do Rails console. I'm gonna do a little debugging here. So queries, is that, okay, it's actually able to appear. If I prefix with colon, so I don't want, I'm looking at the error message here, and it's trying to look for queries under API places controller, and I'm just gonna add 2 colons, and that forces us to look for queries like, you know, at the global namespace level. Let's see if that works. Okay, so no, that does not work. So even though this was available as a local variable, I'm not able to access it within API controller. So let's just restart the server. I'm worried that it didn't pick up those new files that were created, and that, you know, that's why. Okay, refresh. Okay, cool. We went and got another error now. So keywords in it. So let's actually here. I'm just gonna undo this because Ruby should be able to figure this out if where queries exist. So let's refresh. Okay, cool. Keywords in it. I think it's keyword in it. So I'm gonna go back here and change it to keyword in it. And again, the documentation for this is Rails struct keyword init. Sorry, not Rails, it's a Ruby thing. And it's this thing where struct is basically a way to define a container for fields, and you know, you can initialize it by just passing the parameters in order. But if you add a keyword init true, you can basically there could be a scenario where you accidentally pass in the address first and then date, and this, because you name the params, it's a little harder to mess up. And so that's why this keyword init true is a feature, and that's how it's useful for our developers. So yeah, I'll link this later on. Let's see, what are we doing here? Okay, let me just clear out all my tabs here. So we were debugging. Okay, well, we figured it out now. So cool. So if we click on this, we reverse the list. Okay, cool. So, and then if we click city, it also reverses, and looks like I forgot to add the styling for the city field where I can actually have a cursor pointer on that. So refresh, so city, or sorry, sorting my name, cool. And then if I click city, it should be sorting by city ascending, and looks like numbers come first, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then P, Q, R, S. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So now you have sorting working. And before we push this to production, we should write a test. So you notice that in the queries component, we have this method. We pulled out that logic, and you don't just pull out logic and just leave it there. In Ruby, because testing is so easy, let's write a test. So we're gonna go to, let's see, we're gonna go to test, and we're gonna actually add a folder called components, and we're gonna add a folder called queries, and then we're gonna add a file called places order test, and we're gonna set up this test now. So I'm just gonna kind of copy some of this stuff here. Okay, let me just, it's probably, okay, I just need to look up what the what type of tests are there. So if there's, I just want like a simple unit test, but I still want to be able to access the database. So let me just look up action dispatch testing Rails. Let's see what kind of tests that they help us with. So unit testing your models. That's what we want, right? Unit active support test case. Okay, let's actually just try this out. So instead of API, this would be places. We're gonna just do let's see, queries. So queries. Okay, and we have a places order test. Okay, all right. So let's create some test cases. So we have test, string, do, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's just add, okay, let's just think about the, let's just write, I'm just gonna split the screen now. I'm gonna look at the implementation, and I'm gonna just try to enumerate out first in comments of what the heck this class does, right? So split right. All right, so let's look at this test. So first things first, it, you know, throws an error if you know, name or city is not a sort column, right? So if it's something else, then if sort column is not name or city. I also like to define the happy path, which is like, you know, if user sends up valid column in order, returns the correct query, like result or something like that. Okay, so let's do unhappy path number 1, unhappy path number 2, which is throws an error if, you know, order column is not, you know, ascending or descending. Okay, and then maybe we can do something like does the right thing if there are no places passed in, right? Like returns empty list if valid params input but no places, right? And then maybe we could do returns ordered list, single element if one place is passed in with valid input, with valid config. Okay, so that's kind of like the few edge cases. English is not great, but we can reformulate it when we write the actual code. So happy path, if user sends up, actually let's do one of the sad paths because that's a little easier to figure out. So okay, throws an error if sort column is not name or city. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So throws error if, you know, sort column is invalid. Okay, let's do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, and sometimes I like to do this, let subject It's like what we're testing here. So queries places.order.new. That's what we're testing here. And we can do like subject.call, and we're gonna pass in a place. Okay, so let's do, really doesn't really matter. Let's create like some places too. So let places, okay, factory bot.create list. Let's just create like a place. Let's just create a single place. Let's create a list. Places, and 5 of them. It really doesn't matter what we're passing in. Let's actually just instantiate that here. And we could just do 2, it doesn't really matter. And then we could do places, and then we're going to do order config. So queries places order.new, order config.new, and we're going to pass in 2 arguments, sort column, which is invalid column, and then sort order should be valid, right? So that's one test. Sorry, let me just, kind of a long setup. Okay. So what else are we gonna do? We're gonna make sure that this throws an error. So let's Google how to do that in mini test. So Rails mini test assert exception. That's really what I want to do. Okay, you could do assert raises. So you could do something like assert raises blah when you do this. Assert raises method with custom error. Okay, I actually don't really understand what the second thing is. Okay, cool. So that's great. So you could do assert raises standard error. When this stuff happens here, okay? Let's just test the syntax out real quick. So bundle execute our spec test. Oops, components. Sorry, wrong. Rails test. Test components / queries. Let's just run this, see what happens. Cool. So we don't really have a let. Let's actually just set this equal to the class for now. Okay, cool, so it passed, and let's actually make a bug. So let's actually say, we'll just actually let it through. Let's see. Standard, okay, so that's actually not good. Okay, let's think about this. So we actually want something more than standard error. We want raises standard error of like, okay, and then we could say like invalid order config equals that. Okay, and then we could say like is not allowed. Let's just say it that way. Okay, cool. Undefined method standard error. Okay, let's actually go back to the implementation. Okay, so we have raises 2 arguments here. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Cool, so that passed, but I just want to make sure that if I make it fail, that it actually fails. No, it does not fail. So, that is not what I expected. I'm not even passing in the order config, which is very interesting. And let's just call this like order. Let's just have some repeated code. It's all right. It's all right. Interesting. That is not good. Doesn't even call the call method. Okay, so I actually don't know what we're testing here. So places ordered tests. It's not even the right like Let's just order test. Okay, so I just want to verify that this actually gets into this. Ordered places, ordered test. Cannot load such file. Places ordered. Okay, cool. So order test. Cool, it actually called it. Let's actually just run through the lines manually. We've got 2 places. Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Let's actually do order.new.call places, or sorry, order.call places order config. Let's just see what happens. It throws an error. It says is not allowed. Eval error. Great. Continue. Okay, let's just okay, but if this is like, you know, it's that. Next. Okay, we're gonna call order config. We're gonna call this. We're gonna create the order config. Now we're gonna see if this subject dot order dot call. Okay, order dot call places order config. So that. Oh, it's still through the air. Interesting. Oh, right, because they actually do this second error. Okay, so let's actually make this a little bit more specific. So like sort order. Okay, let's just say has an invalid. Okay, let's just make this more specific. So order error. And this is column error. Okay. And what we can do is we can say, okay, so let's give this a more specific message. So it could be something like has an invalid order, right? Order, sorry. Yeah, okay. And then column error is like, you know, has an invalid column. Okay, and so now instead of this, it's like, okay, now we can be very specific. Has an invalid. So here we have, let's see, we have in, oh, valid, sorry. Descending, so it has an invalid column. Okay. All right, so this test should pass, and we're just gonna add the second test. So throws error if sort order is invalid. So column, let's just sort by name. Sort order, let's just say it's invalid. And now we should say this has an invalid order. Okay. So both these tests should pass if we run this again. Okay, both tests will pass. Let's just mess with the implementation. Oh, wait, hold on. We already messed with the implementation. So this, okay. Oof. This is kind of rough because I don't know why the first one didn't pass. The first one, okay, subject, order, okay, order.call. All right, cool. Okay, let's test. Cool. So now let's actually get rid of this first one, and that still passed. Wow, this is kind of weird. Let's go back to. Okay, so I think config error. Maybe we should return it. I'm trying to think, like, is this actually a true? I don't think it's true because you're actually failing. So let's see. Config error. Okay, I have no idea why that didn't catch it. Column error. So we have a sort order error. And then we have a column order error, like we should be calling it instead of just calling it like order error. So let's try this again. And then if we did, well, this is not even the right implementation, which is kind of weird. Let's see. Let's actually go back to here, finding that break. And that's actually, I think we're just catching all standard errors. That's like what I'm guessing right now. Let's just run the first one. Let's actually try to see what happens here. So you do order.call places. Okay, so order.call places order config. Let's just see what this throws. This throws some kind of error. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's like some kind of error, but let's see. This is the string for the failing test. Okay, what I really want is a specific error with an argument. So let's actually assert raises runtime error. Error message. Okay, assert raises runtime error when you run this code, and then you can assert match something in the error message. Oh, okay, so let's actually do that instead. So I think it's a syntax that's somehow catching all these standard errors. Let's do that. So we have an order config, and we can do error equals, let's just follow the code a little bit. So assert raises, right? And then we have standard error. Okay, cool. And then we have the code that we're running. Okay, so order.call places order config. Okay, cool. So that's what we're actually testing here. And then we can also do assert match, right? Assert match. Assert match. And we could say has an invalid column. And that is the error message. Let's try that. Let's actually try that out. So okay, order, and this is the same thing. Okay, so let's actually see what we got. Okay, let's see what we got here, where we have column here. So let's just make sure our Ruby syntax is correct. Cool, so we have two, okay, undefined method standard error for, all right, so let's see standard error, that exists? Yes, it does. So it raises standard error. Huh, somehow it's not defined in the test. Undefined method standard error for this test. So yeah, it just was not able to define standard error, which is like, what the heck? Let's try this again. So line 14. Okay, let's see if standard error exists. It exists. So right, assert raises standard error, and then the thing that will throw the error. So I actually don't really understand. Okay. Interesting. Undefined method order for places. Okay, cool. So let's actually do that then. Just really struggling with some Ruby syntax here with these helpers, but we'll take what we got. Cool. So let's actually run through both implementations, and looks like in both cases. So in the first one, has an invalid column to match. Okay, so I expected the error to match. So let's see what happens. So let's just test the first one here. So 10, line 10, we've got, okay, expected has an invalid column to match. Okay, So this is the entire error message, and yeah, it looks like there's something that was throwing. So let's see. So it didn't throw it, and it was basically looking for has an invalid column, and it's basically looking for that here, and okay, let's actually take a look at this. Assert raises. All right, this is just some code that returns it. Okay, and somehow it was able to match. It was somehow able to get access to the error message. Is that really how this code works? Let's take a look. You have an error. No, okay, the error we got was no method error, undefined method order for. So somehow this still made it through to, which makes sense. So that if we correct the implementation, we're gonna try it again. So, okay, so that passed. Okay, now let's see what the other test is. Oh, both test passes. Okay, now if we change this, if we mess with the implementation here, that test is gonna fail. If we fix it, that test is gonna pass. Okay, cool, so now we're rolling. Let's add the other, so we did these two. Let's actually add the happy path and then the couple edge cases. Let's start with the two edge cases because it's actually a lot easier. So returns empty list if places is empty but with valid order config. Okay, so we've got let's see, we can pass in place.all. So we're not really going to create the places, but we're going to create all the other stuff. So we have the order, we're going to pass in okay, we're going to actually assert something about the results. So let's go back to, I'm just going to go to one of the other tests. I'm just going to steal the assert equal. Okay, assert equal. Okay, cool. So assert equal order dot call places order config. So we're going to call the order config, and we're going to expect that to equal to empty array, and we're going to actually give it a valid config. So name and ascending or something like that. Okay, and then we're going to add another similar one where we're going to do places equals factory bot.create list place. We're going to create one place. Okay, we're going to pass in the places thing. It's going to return you places. It's going to return you the same exact thing, and this is going to be ascending. It doesn't really matter. So these two should pass, but probably messed up with some of my syntax here. Okay. And yeah, okay, let's actually make it through here. So let's see, it's already defined in query. So let's actually returns list single place if only one place is passed in with valid order config. Okay, so let's call this. Okay, so place the all place the all. What else we got? Yeah, okay, let's try this again. Okay, so we have 4 runs, 6 assertions. Okay, so we got a couple errors here. Let's actually run through line 26 here. Line 26, pass in places. Let's do place.all. Okay, so let's do line 26. Okay, so that passes now, and let's do line 34. Or test for that one. Okay, so it looks like we have a single place. We passed in places.all, and we passed in a valid config, and we weren't able to order it for some reason. So let's take a look at this. Undefined method order for this array, and I don't really want to pass in an array. Maybe you could just pass in like it's very interesting. Like it's not, I don't really want that to be an array. Let's just go and debug this a little bit. So places is it's an array. What if we pass in a so like if you do something like places.all.order, you know, like created at ascending. Sorry, place. Then that would work. But if we're passing in an array of places, that then doesn't really work. So let's, okay. Okay, let's actually get rid of this call because it actually doesn't do anything. And we can get rid of assigning that to a local variable. Okay, cool. So let's try this again. Actually get rid of this guy. Let's run this test again. Okay, so order test line 38. Okay. And this should equal to place.all. Like it just return the same thing. You should look in the implementation of no visual difference in the. Okay, so I think what we need to do is you could say we can pass in places, all places, and we can pass in just the same variables. No, let's actually do this. We're just gonna do this thing. We're gonna do this like we're gonna create a place, right? And we're just gonna say that that place is gonna be what's returned. Wrong number of arguments. Oof. Let's see. Line 35. So it's this. Okay. Creating a single one. All right, cool. So that passes. All the tests pass. Let's add our fifth test, which is the happy path. So if a user sends up a valid column in order, returns the correct result. So let's actually do orders by, I don't know, place it, name ascending correctly. Test orders by name descending correctly. And then test orders by city ascending correctly. Test orders by city descending correctly. Okay, so we're just gonna we'll class this. So factory bot.create, we're gonna create a place with name of like A, and we're gonna create one with B as well. Okay, place 1. 2, let's just create one more. Create place, you know, like, sorry, let's just do B. Okay, cool. So we got 3 places, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, we're gonna have a valid config. This is name ascending. And we're gonna say that when we call the order, we're gonna return place 1, place 3, place 2. Okay, and we're just gonna do the same for here. We're gonna do descending, and we're just gonna do the reverse. So place 2, place 3, place 1. And lastly, sorry, not lastly, we've got 2 more to go. We're gonna create city. We're just gonna do the same thing with the city field. And we're gonna say you want to do city ascending. It's place 1, place 3, place 2. And similarly, if the cities are descending, we want to reverse this list. So place 2, place 3, place 1. So yeah, that gets us through most of the happy paths. Let's run the test. Okay. And okay, so order is not defined. Let's actually pull that up to top level because we use it everywhere. Okay, and then all these are done. And yeah, let's get rid of order. We don't need a defined order everywhere. Cool, let's run the tests. And all of them passes. And if we change the implementation to something like, you know, whoops, let's actually just return the places in the same order, well, the tests are gonna fail, right? So there we go. Cool, so yeah, so now we have this fairly well tested in terms of test coverage, and yeah. Now we have sorting by name and city, both ascending and descending orders, and there we go. Push this to GitHub, so let's do something like git add. Okay, we're gonna do something like add component for ordering places. Okay, and then we're gonna add this. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, update place list view to sort by name and city. User can now toggle between name and city as the sort fields. And there is now an arrow key for sort direction. Cool, so let's push that up. And yeah, we can just merge that in, git merge sort by name. And we're gonna push that up. And yeah. Test, let's see what the heck that's about. Okay, let's actually run Rails tests. I should have done this earlier before I even pushed. Yeah, looks like I have my places controller test is failing. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's actually an invalid request now. Let's see, sort and sort order equals name and sort order column equals ascending. Okay, so let's actually add this to every single query. We can pull out the search term equals block to a separate object like we did for the ordering logic, but we'll just do that another time. I just want to get my test to pass so that I'm confident that I didn't introduce any breaking changes. So if I'm just passing in search terms and just keeping the other variables the same, this test should pass. Let's see, let's take a look at that. Nope. Okay, so ascending, sort order name, sort order equals name, sort column equals ascending. All right, so let's actually dive into a specific test then. Line 54 is failing. Why is this failing? If search term does not match any places. Answers if search term, okay, has an invalid column. So we're given a sort column is ascending. Ah, okay. There we go. So that is your error. I just wrote the test wrong. It should actually be sort column equals name and sort order equals ascending. Okay, let's just redo the same changes we did, but just correctly. Okay. All right. Cool, so this controller test case passes and all of them pass, and if I do Rails test, that should be green now. That's great. Okay, cool, so let's just do something like fixed places controller test. There were more params that are now required, such as sort order and sort column. I've updated the test, so this should pass now. Okay, let's push that up to main. And then, yeah, if we go back to our little CI here, we can see that I was messing around a little bit with CI configuration, so don't worry too much about this like circle CI builder, but this one is what we want to look at. And I have a video of like, I've been trying to make a video for CI, but it really just like, you're basically just watching me debug for like 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours, and it's just like all debugging. And at the end of the day, like if you just want like a file, right, you would just go here and you would just like use this file. I think that's kind of in practice how it works in the real world, where you just find something that works, because all I care about is that this runs correctly, and that like if there's like repeated code or things that I don't quite understand, it's kind of just like write once code and you don't really revisit it as much. So if you're interested in like how I set up Circle CI, or sorry, how I set up GitHub Actions CI, you can take a look at this commit here, which just adds a couple files that basically allows us to run a Rails test on every push to a server. So, every push to a branch. So anyway, this became green, and now we can deploy it on Heroku. So let's just go ahead and do that. We're gonna go to our project here. We're gonna go to let's see, deploy, and we're just gonna kind of run through the same commands basically. So we're gonna do something like, we're on the main directory. We're gonna do Heroku login, and I'm just gonna open that in the browser. I'm just gonna open it in this browser actually. Okay, so it's signed in now, and then we're just gonna follow this command. We're gonna do git. We already made our changes, so we're just gonna do git push Heroku main, which is the branch that we have. And let's see. Let's actually make a git push Heroku main. Git remote -v. Let me just see what remote branches there are. Okay, so we don't really have a Heroku remote. So let's actually go to the actual Heroku deploy from Git. Let's actually just move to that. Yeah, there we go. And I'm just gonna go to the part that creates a remote. So you're gonna do something git Heroku remote -a. Cool. So we're gonna do what's our name? Let's go back to Heroku. We literally just did this last time. Public-internet. Public internet. Okay. So we're gonna create a remote, and then now we can push to it, and it's gonna do the whole thing of compiling assets and then deploying. So we'll just let it do its thing. Cool, so now it's launched. Let's go to the website and see if sorting works. Because it's asleep, it might take like, it was actually pretty fast, never mind. Cool, so it looks like you can tell by the network traffic that, let's just do a refresh. If you look at the network traffic, we hit the places, question mark, sort term equals sort column. So sort term is empty, sort column is name, and sort order is ascending. So these are the default arguments that we define in JavaScript in the React world. Then we were able to toggle this back and forth. And yeah, you can see that the order was sorted, and you can click city. And now city is going to get sorted, and then if you click city again, it's going to reverse it. So you can see that the requests are correct here and that functionality works. And then now let's actually combine this. So let's say we search stuff with E in it, right? Okay, I guess every single term has an E, so this is actually not that hard. Let's do F. So F should return two things. Let's do, well, okay. I'm trying to demonstrate a combination of search and, let's see. I'm just trying to find like a character that exists in two of these, but not the third, okay? Let's just do T. Okay, I think T would work. If you do T, it should only return these two, but now you can actually sort by them. And it'll be restricted by what you search. So this is an example of like how to get search and some other filter to work together. And again, that's made possible by our React state that keeps track of all the things that we're sorting by, filtering by, etc. in one place. So yeah, that's all I have for this session. See you next time. If you really like these, please subscribe. That's like good feedback for me to basically make more of these as I work on this project. So thank you all. Talk to you next time.